We're going to quickly talk about the do's and don'ts of proper brush care. So I've got my little drawings back here to illustrate as well. But we're going to talk about the don'ts first. So you want to make sure you do not soak your brush in water. You never want to just put it in a cup of water and leave it, because that water is going to be soaking into, this is called the ferrule of the brush. It's going to soak in there and start to erode the glue that actually keeps your bristles in. So the longer it soaks, the more eroded that glue will be and the bristles will actually start to pull out. You also don't want to leave your brushes bristles down anywhere like this, whether in a cup of water or dry, because that will start to bend your bristles and your brush will start to get deformed over time. So really try and avoid that. You also don't want to push straight down with your brush to the point where the bristles are splaying out like that. Do not smash your brush, because again, that will damage and deform your bristles, and your brush won't actually paint effectively if you are doing that regularly. So the next one, you don't want to cross contaminate your colors. So it actually happened a little bit here on accident, just because this brush is so big. It's, almost bigger than the paint pans. So you've just got to be careful when you're using your brush not to do something like that. And you certainly don't want to intentionally get one color and go into another, because then they're going to mix. And to clean them again, if you want to use just, pure yellow and you've gotten purple in your yellow, like I'm going to have to do here with my pink, you're going to have to waste some color to get that contamination out. So like I'm having to wet it, get all this color up off that first layer, and it's not much, but it's enough to be kind of wasteful um, to get rid of that contamination. And your brushes too are probably going to shed. These aren't, like I said, the world's greatest brushes, but they'll work. But just if they leave hairs, try and get them out with like a nail, or use the brush to just gently get them out without wasting too much paint. Okay. The next thing, do not rinse the paints. So I've seen students do this before, and I'm hoping that, especially since this is your set of paints, that you'll want to keep this so it lasts as long as possible. But you never want to put this part under running water, because obviously they're watercolors. The water is going to hit the paint, dribble out, taking your paints with it. So never, ever, ever run water over this part. You do want to run water over this side though. So this side is where you can mix paints. So if I want to mix, oh, look at that. I totally forgot that I had pink on my brush and now I've contaminated. Luckily these colors, purple's the darker color, so that pink's going to get absorbed pretty well, but it's especially bad if you get a dark color into something light. Oh my goodness. Anyway, if you want to mix colors, this is the area that you want to do that. This is kind of a built-in palette. So I'm going to load up some purple. I can use this ledge too to get some of that purple out of my brush like that. I'm going to rinse my brush so that I'm not contaminating my colors. And let's say I want to do like I don't know, purple red. I'm going to get a little water on my brush. Hopefully, again, you're changing your water often so that you're not contaminating your colors with the water that you use. Loading up some red on my brush. And then I'm coming over here to mix it. If you have a really big area of this, obviously you're going to want to put down more color on your palette so that you have more paint that ends up being mixed. But for small areas too, you probably don't need a ton. So this is a really good place to mix your colors without getting any of your actual paint pans contaminated. So some other things that we do want to do now, we've talked about the don'ts. We've talked about mixing in the palette. We do want to swirl to clean between colors. So again, we're not soaking, we're not smashing, but we can swirl. You can just touch your brush to the bottom. I know I can't show you from the side, otherwise the water will tip out, but you can gently touch your brush to the bottom of the cup and swirl. You can, push it against the sides under the water like that to really push out some more of the pigment. And then, run it along the edge to help pull that water out of the brush further. I also really recommend working with a paper towel so that you can dab out the extra water on there if you need. And then if you see pigment still in that water, your brush isn't really clean. Chances are there's a bunch of paint still up in the base of where the bristles are attached. Some other things that we want to do when you're all done painting, you do want to gently rinse your brush under like clean water, like from the sink. And to do that, you can turn the sink on, put your hand under it so the water hits your hand and runs off. And you can kind of do your brush back and forth like this, like paint your hand under the water. And that's a really gentle way to kind of get a little extra cleaning done. You can also kind of shimmy it like that under the water, and that'll help dislodge the paint that's up in those bristles. After you've cleaned your brush and it's still a little bit damp, so let's say I've just cleaned my brush, it's kind of damp. And again, not the most amazing brush. You can see that some of the bristles are kind of already poking out, but especially if you have nicer brushes, this is really important because you want them to retain their shape. So with a little water still in your brush bristles, you want to just smooth down your brush into whatever shape it originally was. Ooh, look at all those hairs coming out. Yikes. And that'll be different, obviously, for the shape of each of your brushes. So we have a couple smaller ones. Same with these. After you've used them and they might be kind of, flattened out or something, you want to get them wet and just kind of gently shape them back into, whatever they looked like originally. And then lastly, we did kind of talk about this, but when you're all done and you've used up your colors and these are just extras that are not going to get used, you want to wash this side under the sink, but again, not your paints. You don't want to waste your paints, but you can angle this, run the water down on this side, and even use your brush to kind of scrub it a little bit to clean it. You'd want to do that before cleaning your brush, though, obviously. So those are some brush care tips. If you treat your brushes well, they should last you a long, long time. I have so many brushes at home. Oh my goodness, I collect them. I have a whole nother jar that won't even fit under my dock cam because it's about twice as tall, but I just love and adore brushes. Anytime I see them at on sale at an art store or at a thrift store, I buy them, but there's some that have really specific shapes and you want to make sure that you are taking good care of your brushes, taking good care of whatever shape they come in, and they will last you a long time. I have had some of these brushes since, I was in high school myself, a lot of them. So yeah, the sky's the limit with the brush shapes and sizes and things that you can find. I encourage you, if you like using the paints, look out for sales on brushes or at thrift stores or anything like that and start, developing a collection. So hopefully that helps you learn how to take good care of your brushes so that you end up, if you like it, you can have collections that last your whole lifetime and they will serve you well.